Welcome to Event Experience by Bizzabo, the podcast where we bring the best and brightest event experience leaders together to share stories, tips, and lessons learned from creating some of the world's biggest events. I'm Rachel Moore, your podcast host. In this conversation, Adam Palleschi, Managing Director of BB Blanc, shares insights into his journey from technician to director, the evolving role of technology in events, and the importance of sustainability in AV production. We also discuss the impact of AI on event planning and the significance of human interaction in any event experience. Today's guest is all about the tech. Going from a lead technician to his role today as the managing director of Canadian AV production company BB Blanc. His career since 2008 has led him through the nuances of audiovisual production to our guest seat today on Event Experience. I am pleased to welcome Adam Palleschi to the podcast. Adam, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rachel. I'm very happy to be here and very excited to be on.
Me too. Bizzabo is an event tech company, emphasis on the tech. And so we always love having people in tech, particularly when it comes to production and stuff here on the podcast. So joyous to have you here with us. The first thing we ask, and this is completely relevant to the events industry across the board, because we've all been there where there's like these 14-hour plus days and you're on your feet all day. So with that in mind, what are your go-to on-the-ground event day shoes?
So, as I mentioned, I wear many, many hats. But, as far as on-the-ground event day hats, for me, I'm going there to, make sure that the standards are met. I hold the bar very high for the team and, the rest of the team, and company-wide, the expectations are quite clear. And, every little detail from how the cables are taped down to is the drape perfectly ruched and is everything on stage as clean as it possibly could be? Do we have truss covering put on? Like, I can go through so many different things, but, I'm there to verify and ensure that all that's taking place. Of course, chit chat with the clients a little bit, work with the crew. And, for me personally, I do try to get on site as much as possible.
Yeah.
And actually not just to do the things I said, but to actually work a shift. And I try my best to do that at least once a month from some of our larger events. And it's good to, meet with all the crew and some of our freelancers and again, the clients and so forth, and really get a firsthand experience. And, for me, one of the biggest things is learning from your mistakes and constantly improving. And one of the big things is, I don't think you're ever perfect. I think, you can be as good as your last show, but you can always be better. And, I never want to be shut down and never walk around with, we're perfect, we're the best. It's, we're good, but we got to keep being better. And that's really the end goal. So, I never want to lose track of that either. And being on the ground and having that experience, let's say from a technician standpoint or a project manager standpoint or an account manager standpoint, getting that firsthand experience is much better on site than you can ever get from your desk.
Yeah.
So that's certainly something I do force myself and actually genuinely do enjoy doing.
Excellent. Well, when you do have those days where you're heading around checking everything, do you have a particular pair or style of shoes you prefer to wear?
Generally on site for setup, it's steel toe boots. So
Impressive. Well, that makes sense, though. You are moving a ton of equipment. I mean, goodness, no one's going to be wearing flip-flops around in that kind of environment, too. So I steel-toe boots, very good. My husband would sign his approval. He thinks those too. Is there anything that you are listening to, watching, or reading these days that you can't put down? And it doesn't have to be work or events related.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of my hobbies, I have sports hobbies that I follow quite closely. Formula One, I'm a big Formula One fan, and I follow that very well. But also, and this kind of ties into work as well. I love interior design. I love architecture and things like that. And I'm still pretty heavily involved with the design of our events and have been historically speaking here. So I like the amalgamation of putting those together. Architecture, interior design into live events and into our sets that we do produce and ultimately deliver to our clients. So that's ongoing. I follow a lot of our different designers from that standpoint and just get inspired by their work. And, that's something I'm always kind of reading into and looking at. And it's a bit of a passion of mine for sure.
Awesome. Very cool. That's really cool. Is there a particular social post or a piece of media or even a hot take about events that you found interesting lately?
Yes, actually. And I'm going to tie this back to AI. And one of the things is, again, as I already mentioned, a lot of us are looking, of course, to AI to come up with the latest and greatest. And, one of the things that we constantly look for is trying to measure attendee feedback for the events that we put on. And it's very hard because most of the survey questions that go out, if the people do fill them out, you're kind of getting an answer kind of a 1 to 10. Maybe some people are going to put a sentence or two down, but it doesn't really, get to the depth, I would say, of what we're really looking for. And one of the interesting things that I read that I heard is out there, again, AI based, is some form of camera system that is looking at the attendees during a conference. Let's say you're sitting in a main plenary, and it's actually tracking their facial expression. So
Ooh.
are they looking down at their cell phone and, doing emails? Are they looking straight ahead and engaged? Are they smiling? Are they laughing? Are they sad and frowning? I guess it depends on the information they're receiving, but it's something pretty interesting that, we can now measure, you know, attendee engagement at a far greater level than ever, before thought possible. And that's very exciting to me for
That
sure.
is super exciting and, creepy, but also exciting. Like, I have a mixed bag. I'm like, it creeps me out that, like, people can be tracked so much, but as a marketer, I'm like, "Yes, track everybody."
Absolutely. There's kind of pros and cons to everything, I suppose. But it's one of those things, though, and it is lucrative because, we're
Mhm.
always kind of looking for that edge and some form of relevant data or statistics about, how we're making a difference. And, that's
Yeah.
one of the ways I've seen that, could be a possibility in the future. And that's pretty exciting.
Wild. That's really cool. Everybody's gonna be like, "I need to look that up." Could you tell our listeners a bit more about you and your role, at BB Blanc?
Absolutely. And before I jump into that, I'll go through my entire history here. And it has been quite long. And I think it's important to, I guess, understand my current position
Yeah.
at BB Blanc. So I've had a long history with the company. I've started back in 2008 when it was founded. And we were founded in the owner's garage at the time. And the owner being Rennie Kaleli. He's a long history in the live events business. And this is just another one of his many creations in the entrepreneurial world. And we started in 2008 in the garage, and the rest is kind of history from there. But it's been a great 16 years. And working from there, we went on to many great things. The company was started as a mix of social and entertainment, as well as corporate AV production. And as the years progressed, we've turned into certainly a corporate focused company, and we still keep the social side as well. And that's a flourishing division of BB Blanc as well. For myself, I began with Rennie as a technician. And during those many years, I was also studying for my Bachelor of Commerce. From there, I moved into a project management role, followed by technical director. And on my bucket list, it was always to also achieve my goal of getting my MBA. So I took care of that as well, actually, over the pandemic. We had a little bit of downtime and I was able to take care of that. And I don't think it would have ever happened otherwise. And the many nuances of this industry working, you know, around the clock to put on many great events takes a lot of time. And, to do an MBA is not easy. And the pandemic kind of allowed for a little bit of that. So that worked out quite great for myself. With all of that combined with the education and, with all the work experience throughout the years and in the industry with BB Blanc, the managing director position became available. And I like to say I was a pretty good fit for it. So putting all those years of experience together with the education got me this current position, and I'm very grateful for it, very excited for the challenges. And, every day I find myself encountering new challenges, ones that I thought I would never imagine. And, sometimes you find yourself saying, you've seen it all, or you've done it all, or, who knows what's going to come next. And you're constantly amazed by all the new challenges
Yeah.
that come up every day. It's always something new. So that keeps it fresh. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about those challenge like, what is your typical day? Like, what is a day in the life of a managing director of BB Blanc?
Yeah, so I wear many hats, and I guess coming up through the company as a startup, in the entrepreneurial world and in the whole world of startups, you have a few people doing many things, and slowly as the company grows and gets larger, you're able to segment those things into separate specific roles. So now I'm not so much doing each one of those separate specific roles, but overseeing and providing direction to them all. So from marketing to sales to the production end, project management, design, creative, the list kind of goes on. But I have my hand in all of that. So it's very busy. And that is what keeps it so exciting as well. There are many days, that you can't catch a break. You don't even have a time, a second to eat lunch or anything like that. You're just running from this meeting to that meeting, and you're trying your best to be involved as much as possible in every division of the company and making sure that it is moving in the direction that it is conducive for our business and for our vision. So it's definitely exciting. It's always constantly busy. It never slows down. And even when we're slow business wise, I feel like in our position, myself in particular, I'm even busier, focusing on planning for the future and ensuring that every division is on the correct path that we want them to be on.
Yeah, it sounds busy. I can only imagine, but I think it's so great too. I mean, you talk about the origins too, of working with the founder in the garage. But it really sounds like, and honestly, I'll just be honest. My audience probably knows this from listening. I can't relate. I mean, I've definitely been someone who's moved around with different companies over the years. But what a great longevity and a great legacy to have to be with BB Blanc for so long. Makes perfect sense that you're a managing director today to help kind of guide things into the future, and also you obviously have the knowledge base that's needed, knowing all the ins and outs of the business and be like, okay, master of ceremonies, let's get this done, people. So I think that's amazing. I would love to dive into some of this stuff with you. Obviously, coming from technical perspective, from AV production perspective, and I know as we're recording this episode, I had mentioned to you off air that I just recorded, hosted the webinar for Bizzabo. We were just talking about trends for events, and one of them that came up was AI. And we've heard from several guests on this podcast about how trends like AI and related technologies like AR and trends like sustainability are going to figure into the future of events. I would love to ask, could you share with us your view and philosophy about how those technologies are a part of events today and will be in the future?
Absolutely. I'm very happy you asked. I have a very long-winded response. So
Bring it.
feel free to jump in at any point. But to start, so we mainly service the corporate event space. That's our primary business focus for live event production. And in terms of AI, there are really two ways that I see AI being able to help. And one I would refer to as internal, and another I would refer to as more external. So an internal AI tool to me is one that helps the vendor, people like myself and event planners. External is more attendee focused. So things like messaging, networking, and learning, which we'll get to in a second. So firstly, in terms of internal, AI tools that can help with this are essentially things like logistics planning, design and creative ideation, tools to help measure attendee engagement, which I'll reference a little later on. Those are all internal. So things to make our job easier and more efficient and more effective. For external, we need to remember, as I already just mentioned, the purpose of events to me are based on three main objectives. And this is messaging, networking, and learning. So us and our job as event professionals working in the corporate space is to help promote those goals. So when it comes down to AI tech, it needs to help with those objectives. So how can AI help attendees learn faster? How can AI help with attendee networking and ultimately assist with attendee learning? So these are all the questions that I try to find solutions for with AI and all the kinds of other forms of technology. So that's kind of my view on it for sure. In the future, I think AI integration obviously is going to continue to improve. I think this is obviously only in its absolute infancy stages of AI. I know many of the large technology professionals in the world, people like Elon Musk and so forth, have all referenced their concern of the power of AI and where that's going to lead to in the future. And obviously they know far more than I do about this technology. But for us, I can certainly say that we are definitely in its infancy stages and we have a long, long way to go. With regards to that, as far as live events go, I think we have to always remember, again, the purpose. And I keep going back to those same three objectives. It's messaging, networking, and learning. And I don't see AI necessarily taking over anything in that space, but it will always be there to assist and aid it.
Yeah.
So again, as I mentioned, aiding in messaging, aiding in networking, aiding in learning, it's overall improving the live event experience. It can't replace a live event, and I'll give you an example in a second, but it'll certainly continue to help event professionals put on better live events and help attendees get more out of them. So one reason why I don't believe or don't think that AI is going to necessarily, be the main focus on events is we kind of got a little dose of it during the pandemic with all the streaming and the
Hmm.
virtual events, all the Zooms and the never ending sort of virtual conferences that we've all attended and virtual meetings we've been a part of. And I think a lot of people were pretty fatigued from it. And I know in my world and the planners that I was working with quite closely, as soon as live events started coming back, I thought for sure that, virtual wasn't going anywhere. Virtual will 100% be a staple in every single live event in the future. And, this is just how it's going to be moving forward. But I was actually a little surprised. I didn't necessarily think that so many people would come back and be like, actually, we're going to meet 100% live in person and it's going to be this way or no way at all. And don't get me wrong, like there are still loads of events that are hybrid. I'd probably say with our event portfolio, probably 60% to 70% of all our events are hybrid and probably only 30 or 100% in person without any virtual element. But especially at the beginning, people were very tired of virtual and they were very, almost burned out of sitting in their laptops at home. And people wanted that live event experience. And, part of the reason why people go to conferences, it is to learn and it is to get education and knowledge, but it's also to network. And one of the things and one of the challenges we found that networking, through technology is hard in a sense. I know obviously all the social platforms and what have you, but in terms of the event world, people want to meet people. People want to get FaceTime with someone they've been trying to talk to, for the past year, maybe it's a 5-minute conversation, maybe get to specific vendors they want information from or vendors to particular clients and so on and so forth. And there's so many examples I can continue to give, but ultimately the goal I think still remains there that human to human contact is very important. And I think even some people getting on a plane and traveling across, whether it's North America or the world to attend an event, it's almost a bit of a getaway, although it is still work. But, between the dinners and all the meetings outside of the actual conference, it does add a lot to the experience. And I think a lot of people do value that. Back to AI and going purely virtual, it's definitely a tool. Like I said, it's a tool and the tool needs to be there to help and obviously help the end goal for sure.
We'll be right back with more event experience after the break.
Behind every great event organizer is software that makes managing the small stuff easy so you can focus on crafting events that matter. From seamless registration and on-site solutions like the Bizzabox to powerful dashboards and the Click Smart Badge, Bizzabo's Event Experience Operating System is your all-in-one solution to planning conferences that captivate and experiences that elevate. Visit bizzabo.com. That's bizzabo.com to learn more.
We're back with Adam Palleschi to identify the guardrails for event planners who use AI. Obviously, everybody listening is going to have their own takes on AI. I mean, we're seeing it manifest. We're seeing it evolve a lot. I really love, too, that you brought up, how it had a place in COVID. And I'm right there with you. I'm someone who is like virtual's never, it's always going to be. And it's like people just haven't have that appetite to get back in person and get back into that. And you do always have to just follow like what is the human inclination? What are our audiences? What direction are they going? And we need to make sure we're ready for that. What's interesting to me too, and I want to get into this next question for you. I mean, I can think, and I'm sure our listeners can think too, be like, yeah, I can use AI to help me with logistics of my job. Like we can all probably pull up a chat GPT and, be like, hi. And even a lot of the tools we use now all have some kind of AI component in it, right? Where it's like,
Absolutely.
just ask the software, ask this app that you're using. Can you, collate this information for me? Can you organize it? Can you come up, help me formulate some ideas that, get you from blank page? I'd love to hear how AI and AR and even sustainability or any combo of those three, how are those being manifested like in your side of the world of events where it's audiovisual production, things like that? Could you give us some examples of practical applications of AI and AR, of how your team is using it in events that you're helping execute?
For sure. So I'll speak to a bit, very close to home with our team and so forth, but also mention industry wide. So sustainability has obviously been a huge initiative on so many people's parts. For us, ultimately being an AV production company, we rely heavily on the equipment manufacturers and the individuals and companies that, come up with all the new tech that, we get to utilize and use to put on these great events. And I got to say that everyone's doing a fantastic job, but it's all still hinged on, the development of technology. And realistically, in the last, even since BB Blanc was founded in 2008, we've come an incredibly long way in a very short period of time. And it all has to do with technology. And a few examples of that, I would say the most obvious example is LED technology. And of course, that being utilized in lighting has been huge. So massive energy efficiencies come with that, of course. You're getting brighter fixtures. The weights of these fixtures are also lighter, no heavy ballasts and such, which helps with trucking efficiency and so forth. There's also less waste because there's no disposals of things like lamps. And you ultimately get a longer lifespan out of the products, which is quite nice. So less waste again. So all those things, and that's just from a lighting standpoint. And I could go on to all the other different, various fields. But, there's quite a bit of sustainability advancement just from that.
Yeah.
That's been very tremendous, industry-wide, of course. So, we've all obviously leveraged that and we've all continued to buy into that line of product. And, it's been serving us and our clients well. And of course, the ultimate goal of sustainability. Something that's a little more close to home and personal. And again, I don't want to give away all our little secrets, but I'll give you a couple of high level. One thing that we discovered that actually was tremendous for us is, and this is more of one of those internal AI tools for sure, using something as simple as ChatGPT to analyze reports. So in the corporate world, we work with a lot of Fortune 500 companies. And in doing so, for us, we're very solution based. We want to make sure that we are targeting the problems of our customers with the best possible solutions and making sure that, their messaging and, whatever they need to convey with any particular conference or event is being conveyed at the highest level. So a lot of ways that we learn, even by using company reports. So they have a lot of shareholder reports and so forth. So we pull these reports and, for most of these companies, they are publicly available. And you can run them through ChatGPT and do a quick summary. So some of these are reports and they're 70 to 100 pages, something along those lines. And, you can very quickly put these reports in, search what you want, and you just ask, basically ChatGPT what you're looking for. So, what are the company's main goals? What are their pain points? What are they investing capital in? All these questions where, it take you hours to go through the report, highlight, summarize, and get to this point that ChatGPT can get to in a matter of seconds, if not, minutes at the worst. So it's very, very quick to get a lot of information, and it aids us in obviously being very efficient in finding out information and effective at ultimately acting on the information that we get.
Yeah.
So that's been very, very helpful to us. I would say another example with virtual reality, the benefits that brings to us. So as far as event rendering goes, we've had lots of advancements with that and different softwares and different ways to view those renderings. Has been tremendous once again to us and ultimately our end client, being able to completely pre-visualize the space as we imagine it and be able to show them that in a very hyper-realistic way. That speaks volumes again to our design and then also ultimately to the solution that we're providing our clients with. Also in terms of programming, in terms of lighting and video programming, we can pre-vis all these elements in virtual reality before we ever roll a case in on site. And that saves us lots of time and gives us the ability to ultimately provide a far better looking product than we'd ever be able to do with just a short amount of time we have in our load-in window. So that's another way that it's helped us quite a bit.
I would imagine. I mean, you've talked about several things where the technology has brought everything forward. Whether it's like you mentioned with LED lighting, where it's definitely got a whole wealth of benefits from transportation to recycling, and cost of those items and how long they can last. But also, I think we've all. I mean, I don't want to assume anything about our audience, but I'm willing to bet most, if not all of us, have tried out ChatGPT or just an AI prompt of some kind. But I'm constantly amazed just from a personal standpoint of like what you can ask it to do. I have some colleagues and some peers that I work with where they're like, yeah, I asked that did this and it put this together. And so there's a whole wealth of things it can help you do just a bit faster where it's using brain power, but maximizing the time that you have to be able to dedicate to other things and helping you. What is that phrase? Work smarter, not harder.
Absolutely.
Right. But I just personally, I'm someone in my household, I love VR because events is just one industry I'm sure VR is super helpful with, but being able to demonstrate, to give a client a realistic view or give yourselves a realistic view, like here's what this setup can look like without actually implementing it all. And then, oh, that doesn't look the way we wanted. Let's take it down and things like that. So I think it's super cool that you're all using that. Do you all have VR headsets at your company, like so that you can do your employees just use them regularly so you can like visualize stuff?
Not everyone, but some certainly do. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's super cool. And who knew, I don't know if even 10 years ago, we'd all be like, oh my gosh, yeah, this is what we're all going to be using. It's wild to see all this manifest in the events industry. Let me ask you this from a cautionary standpoint, and you brought it up a little bit earlier where like there's lines, ways you think it can help. I love that you mentioned augmenting. It's like the technology can augment what your trained professionals like yourself at BB Blanc and beyond, what you're able to accomplish. Where do you think the line is that event planners need to be careful of crossing before their event becomes more about the tech, more about the AI than it does about the attendees attending the event?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm happy you asked it because I feel quite strongly about this personally. And, to me, there's a lot of things that are introduced to the market. And, obviously everyone's trying to put the best foot forward or gain some advantage over the market and, their competition. And I think, for planners in particular, the big thing to keep in mind is always keep your event goal in mind. So I'm going to, again, reference the big three that I mentioned earlier, but is the main focus of your event messaging? Is it networking? Is it learning? Some mix of all three. Keep those three things in mind. And like any, problem, the solution has to solve the problem. So when you're thinking about AI, you have to think about and remember, is this going to help one of those things? Is this AI activation or something that I'm introducing to the conference? Is that helping with the messaging? Or is it actually a distraction to the messaging? And it's a distraction to the main purpose, that, you're trying to solve. You're trying to solve this problem, and this might not be aiding in that. So, look, and I don't want to completely have this negative outlook, and I hope it really isn't coming off that way because it's not. But all I'm trying to say is really, does AI help solve X? Does it help solve the problem? And if it does, I think then it is a tremendous benefit to all parties involved. If it doesn't, I do think, you might be crossing the line and you might be trying to fit a circle into a square a little bit. And, right now you can kind of tell, you can kind of see it when you go to a lot of the industry trade shows and what have you. It's almost like this arms race of technology and everyone's trying to have the next best thing and the latest and greatest, trying to win this client and win that over. And, that's true certainly for audiovisual providers. And I'm sure it's true for planners and, producers that are trying to give their clients the best and so on. At times it can certainly feel very forced and, it's like the shiny new toy and everyone's trying to leverage it. But, the real cautionary practices, again, is just using it in a practical form that ultimately does help the attendee. Or like, as I also mentioned from the internal perspective, it helps yourself too. If you're in the industry, tools that help are obviously fantastic. And, no one wants a tool that they can't use or doesn't solve, a practical purpose. Mm-hmm. So that's probably my take on that, I would say.
Well, I wonder, it almost makes me think like, what if we were to go to ChatGPT right now and say, okay, should I use you? Should I use AI? Like, I wonder how it would answer, be like, of course you should, and, um,
Absolutely. You should try it.
right. Like, is it going to be self-promotional where it's like, yes, use me in every way, shape, and form and use me to excess and, never mind what the attendees want. I know I've interviewed some of our podcast guests too, and they talk about sometimes they'll plug in saying, hey, I want, help me plan the attendee experience from the time they enter this door here until they get down over to this breakout room here. And, just even with like coming up with those ideas, it can do that heavy lifting of like being a sounding board, even at minimum. But I appreciate what you said too, because I'm sure we've all seen, all of us listeners, people watching this can think, yeah, I remember a time where I'm like, really? Did you need to make that happen just for the sake of saying we did this with AI and they've kind of crowbarred it into an activation or an event? And you're like, that didn't feel like it worked. And so I appreciate that you're kind of saying, look, is it solving a problem? But as you said, you always have those three core goals in mind: the messaging, networking, and learning. And every event planner should have, what is that goal? And then, be asking that question before they implement the AI, right? I would like to ask, if we're coming up on the end of 2024 as we're recording this, 2025, brand new year. Do you have any specific projects or activations that you're looking forward to for how you plan to leverage AI or AR, VR, sustainability, or any of the above for all of those?
Yeah, for sure. And I would mention, on our sustainability effort, we do still have our in-house Studio 41 operating. And for us, it's still a great option for our clients. As I already mentioned with virtual, it came in the pandemic, and we developed a very custom, but yet open solution for our clients to come into. And it's a space where we can see a pretty big emission reduction in as well, because we're not loading multiple trucks, we're not traveling across the country, we're not sending crews out and so forth. Everyone's close to home. So, the stat I believe I read a little while ago was 60 to 70% emission reduction in virtual events. So, it still serves a good purpose for us and our clients ultimately.
Yeah.
And with that, there's a lot of great technology in there that we utilize as well. And AR and XR are part of that. So external reality and augmented reality to ultimately help enhance that end user experience even more so. So that's a continuing initiative that we plan to continue for 2025.
Well, AI can obviously help event planners with a bunch of stuff. Is there anything that you think, like off the top of your head, anything that you think event planners themselves can fix, but may not be able to be fixed by AI?
For me, and I would say in some of our daily experiences, working with various planners and groups and corporations, probably on the forefront of that would be fix the RFP process, please.
Yes.
So allow for creativity and allow yourself to be open for different ideas. I hear it all the time. We're looking for something different and something new and exciting for our attendees. And yet the RFP goes out and it's the same ask. 2 9/16 screens, 15K projectors, stage size X, PA for the room, this many mics. Like, if you continue to ask for boring, dry, mundane things, you're going to keep receiving boring, dry, mundane things. And us, creativity and design is on the forefront of one of our differentiators. And we do pride ourselves in the product that we put out there. And, some of our best ultimate stages that we've built and experiences that we designed have all come from clients who gave us the freedom to allow us to show them what we think would be a great idea for their event, and remove the restrictions and remove the standard, we need 2 screens and whatever, to allow to come up with a very creative solution. So my big thing is I think if you change up even some of the wording or some of the requests with RFPs, and you do get to a point to allow for more freedom of creativity and design expression, I think some more incredible things will definitely come out of it for sure. And I know for us, that's one of the things that oftentimes with new clients in particular that holds us back, is because, do you want to address the RFP head on, or can we flex our creative muscle a little and go above and beyond, which we love doing so much. So that's definitely, I'd say, one of the big points for sure.
Last question, the easiest question. Where can our listeners find and follow you online?
No, absolutely. LinkedIn will be the best way. Adam Palleschi. On LinkedIn, Managing Director at BB Blanc.
Excellent.
Also, I'll put a little note out there for everyone who wants to check out a little more on what we do. You can see us at bbblanc.com and have a look at our website. And there's many great feature articles and case studies there as well to see some of the great work that we do.
Every event planner can skill up with Adam's advice about when to involve AV in your planning process.
Production is not to leave us to the last minute and not to treat us as, let's say the paint on the walls versus the foundation of the building. A lot of things hinge on audiovisual production, from the setup of the space to how the content's produced, so on and so forth. So treating us more of as the foundation of the event versus, just an afterthought of we need to fulfill this, so let's get X, I think will lead everyone much further down the road, and everyone will be much happier with the event experience, the attendees, the planners, the end client, and so on and so forth. And finally, one other point that I would like to also mention here is don't be afraid to share your budget. Oftentimes you find a lot of secrecy around that where, the budget's close, near and dear. And I feel personally, and I can speak to, how we operate, we like to maximize our clients' value, essentially. We want them to get as much value as possible for the budget. So instead of guessing and, trying to figure out if we match the RFP versus if we go crazy with an amazing design, are we going to be viewed negatively, perhaps one way or the other? But I think if you do share the budget, that does allow us to give you as much as possible for that. And that allows us to, again, flex creative muscle and come up with something, hopefully that, our clients will find unique and as a different, better experience for the attendees, and ultimately engaging them further. And hopefully they can walk away learning more and have a much better experience overall.
Thanks again to Adam Palleschi for joining us on Event Experience. And thank you for listening. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love to hear it. Connect with us on social and subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you're listening. Also, don't forget to share the show with your colleagues and friends. You can find transcripts of each episode and key takeaways on bizzabo.com/podcast. On behalf of the team, thank you. We'll gather again soon for a new episode of Event Experience.